everybody. Triple Crown 24 back today, and this is going to be the initial episode in my new series talking about sports card grading. Now, in the past few weeks, I've taken over the PSA side of the submission group that Mike O has going along. A lot of you know that by now. He's still doing the SGC side, but I get a lot of questions pretty much daily about grading. Variety of different topics within the realm of grading. And I thought this would be a great little series to kind of explain some of the questions that I get asked most frequently and perhaps put this information out there as well for all of you. So hopefully you will enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get over a little synopsis of this series. So you'll see here what my objective is with this. And really what I want to do is have this how-to guide virtually for rating cards and cover a variety of topics. Now, I am not the best expert on grading cards. I would like to possibly have some guests join me at some point during this series. And I think that's something that's very realistic that probably will happen. So if you have any suggestions for anyone who you would like to see, maybe make a cameo on the series, you can feel free to let me know. But basically there will be, X number of videos relating to card grading. Some of the things that we'll take a look at is specifics regarding each of the TPGs, which is what I'll refer to the third-party grading services as. I'm going to introduce those a little bit later on in this video to kind of give you an idea of what a more normal episode will look like. So that's one of the things we'll look at. We'll also take a look at some of the big questions, the hows. How do I go about submitting cards to PSA or BGS or SGC? We'll have videos on that. The whys. Why should you submit with a certain company? What's a good card to submit? What makes a card a quote-unquote slab candidate? Maybe talk about some of the lingo too that goes along with it. And the wins as well. So when would I expect my cards to come back? When's a good time to send off? A lot of fantastic questions that we can cover more in depth, but expect several videos on those subjects. We'll also take a look at the aftermarket. So a lot of people who grade their cards do end up selling them. And I know a lot of you out there like to buy cards that are graded. Kind of taking a look at some of the phenomena that we see on the secondary market, where to buy slab cards, maybe some of the things to look for getting the best price possible or for getting the most out of your slabbed cards that you are selling. And then also any current events that relate to the subject of sports card grading. So about this time last year, we had the news break of the Slabgate scandal that was involving some TPGs as well as some consignment groups. And that would be a topic that we would discuss in this video, or a video similar to this one. So in this video, it's going to be kind of brief. My objective is to keep these 10 minutes or less, just so it's not too difficult to find information down the line if you need to reference it. A lot of this today is especially geared towards beginners. As we move along in the series, I plan to tackle some more advanced topics within this. But I want to make sure that this is a video that caters to all areas of expertise, from those who are just getting into the hobby to those who are seasoned veterans here in the hobby. So kind of how sports card grading got its origins was during the junk wax era. That's when you see a lot of the current grading companies emerge. If you take a closer look at it, the junk wax era being the late 80s to the early 90s, a lot of times, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, you'd see these cards in the 4-screw holders. I don't have a picture of it there, but most of you who collected during that time span know what I'm talking about. And now, that was kind of the idea of what protected a card well. The 4-screw was the modern day magnetic one-touch, or the modern day slab. And we found out that those aren't actually the best for cards. Now you'll see more and more people going towards slabs. You'll still see some 4-screws if you look hard enough. And the conditions was always subjective. So you'd see these line up in card show or card store showcases. Now more so you have these cards that are encapsulated inside of these slabs by these third-party grading companies, and they are assigned a numerical grade. So there's kind of takes away the subjectivity to some extent where you're not guessing if a card is the difference between near mint and mint. Instead, you're getting a professional opinion on what the card's actual condition is. And the reason for this is to kind of give us a universal language. So this is collector speak for how well a card presents. So maybe a card, it's a copy that has been well loved. It's pretty badly beaten up, but it's still an authentic copy of the card, kind of being at the lower end of the spectrum, all the way to the gem mint or pristine. Those kind of buzzwords and top of the line grades that we assign to cards that are the best of the best in terms of condition in the hobby. So we take a look at some of the pros and cons behind grading cards, and we'll touch on these again. Anything in this video we'll touch on probably much deeper in a later episode, but some of the basic reasons why people are drawn to these is that we, again, have that numerical scale to describe the condition of a collectible. And it kind of takes away what might mean gem mint to you, might mean something different to me. So it's more so of a universal language, where as a collectors, we kind of have an idea of what a gem mint card would look like, or if we're talking about vintage, what an excellent, which would be a PSA 5 or an SGC 5, what does that look like? The encapsulation offers protection to the card. Now, there are many forms of protection that you can use for your cards. Some, such as binder sheets, work, depending on what kind of cards you want to display. You can use magnetic holders. You can use top loaders. Like I said, a variety of different ones, but the encapsulations keeps the cards secure inside of the slabs. Some slabs are very thick and have a lot of layers of plastic for protection. Some, such as PSA, are a little bit more slim. It's based on preference, really, which one you want to have. And also, it generally will increase the value of your cards. So when you have a raw card, I would never assume it is gem mint if you're looking to buy a raw card, because 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be disappointed. And there's usually this misconception that any card that's modern and fresh out of the pack is going to be pristine or gem mint. That's not always the case, and we'll take a look at that again. I know I've said that several times, but we will look at that in a future video. But for the most part, on the secondary market, you will see a higher price for definitely on cards that grade a 10. Your 9.5s and 9s as well, you'll also see a price. Most of the time, anything over an 8, but there are some exceptions to that. Another one, too, that's really key, and this really goes for some of the more popular cards out there that are more likely to be counterfeited, would be authentication of the card's identity. And this is really a fantastic job that the third-party graders do in this area in particular, and that's my opinion on that. But just making sure that the card is actually an authentic version. If you're buying a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, you want to make sure that it is actually a 52 Topps Mickey Mantle and not a card that has been reprinted and then artificially aged. There's a lot of people who try to pull a fast one in this hobby. This helps keep collectors safe and informed, have an informed opinion about a card's authenticity. Some of the downsides, subjectivity regarding the grading. We've seen some politics come into play. Again, something we can talk about at a later time. And not all grades being created equal. One card being a gem mint card might look actually a little bit better than another card that received the gem mint grade. It's not necessarily consistent. That's why you hear the phrase, buy the card, not the grade. Long turnaround times. This is particularly problematic with PSA. SGC and BGS are a little bit faster on their turnaround times, but if you're looking to get cards graded, that can be an obstacle for some people. And then limited options for display. So when you have a raw card, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of display it. Whereas slabs, they're larger, thicker pieces of plastic. They're not as easily displayed. They take up a little bit more space, so that might present some challenges to collectors as well. Just a quick little overview of some of the TPGs that we'll talk about in this series. The big 3 are going to be PSA, BGS, and SGC. There are more out there, but these are really the most prominent players in the industry today, so we will mostly focus on those. These are kind of what they are known for, or historically the types of cards that are typically submitted with these companies. You can see the asterisk next to SGC. That's because this company in particular has been on the rise a little bit within the first half of 2020, We will see if that lasts, but I know a lot of people have kind of moved towards them at the moment right now. But these are cards that are stereotypically submitted to these companies. And then there's grading scales, for the most part, are pretty much the same. They range anywhere from authentic, which is the lower end, just authenticating that the card is legitimate, despite how badly beat up it might be, all the way to 10, which is your pristine top of the line. There are a few differences, such as BGS and SGC offering special versions of 10s, which means the card is absolutely perfect, whereas a 10 pristine might not mean exactly that it is flawless. There might be one or two very minor flaws with it. But a black label or a gold label, depending on which company you're looking at, would indicate that the card, in the opinion of the grader, is flawless. BGS is also very well known for offering subgrades on their cards. And that's something that we will cover in great depths during the BGS episode. So that is it for me today. I know this was a really brief video, didn't provide too much information, but mostly the point of it was to kind of introduce the series. If there's any topics you would like me to discuss more in depth, feel free to leave them below. I will put comments in the videos of people who make the suggestions to make sure that you are credited. And if there's anybody who you would like to see me invite onto the show to kind of talk about this or whatever the topic may be, I am always open to suggestions on that as well. So thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to making more episodes in this series. And until next time, have a good one.